Fellow Toastmasters and guests, I love this globe. It has served me well for 30, 35 years. I love spinning it, I love the texture, being able to get the topography, and basically asking myself, you know, I have a predilection toward international travel. Where can I possibly go next time? Well, back in 1994, I had issues with travel. I was very reticent about traveling, and so I hired a coach, amongst other things, to help me with being able to feel comfortable with traveling. And so what's nice about this globe is that he used it as a prop to be able to push me into this next realm. So sensing frustration with me about my reticence toward traveling, oh yeah, I want to go, but just not now. What he had me do is close my eyes, and he spun the globe around so I couldn't sense what was north or south pole or equator. And he spun the globe and he said, I want you to put your 2 fingers side by side, and that is the place that you're going to go to. Fiji and New Zealand. And I could have picked one or the other, but I decided on both. But he said, the stipulation is this. 1, you have to travel lightly. In other words, just with a backpack and sleeping bag and nothing else. And also that I would not be able to use travel guides or travel tour guides to go through this process, because that's way too easy. I want you to rough it. And then the second part was that, and this was a tough part, was that I had to purchase round-trip, non-refundable tickets and present it to him in 48 hours as proof of my commitment for the next month. So the rest, as they say, is history. A life filled with adventure and future international travels. But what I like to discuss today is how I can apply life's lessons to the blending of how Toastmasters and international travel that I did in 1994 can help me. So the first part was life happens when you have other plans. So when I was in Fiji, I made such a big deal about planning my dining trip in one of the locations. And so for 3 weeks prior to the travel, I had it all set up. And then I arrived the day of that appointed time, and the dive master goes, oh, sorry, man, we didn't get enough people, you're gonna have to come back in a couple of days. Well, then I had 5 days in Fiji. The rest of the time was in New Zealand. What did you do? Why, all this, and I had to realize one of the things was that Fijian culture is different from American culture. You can throw out the timetable and basically, hey, don't worry, be happy. So I learned that. In Toastmasters, when I was preparing for my icebreaker, I had a prop that I set up, basically a Lithuanian sash. For those of you who remember, I basically talked about my Lithuanian heritage. Well, of course, 20 minutes before the presentation, I left it at home. I'm going to have to call the Toastmaster and tell them I can't do this speech because I have my heavy reliance on this piece as artifact. And then my travel experience said, oh, don't worry about it. I'll make it. Just be happy about the whole experience. And so I think I did okay with my first speech. The second aspect is the KISS principle. There are some variations to what that acronym means, but for me it's keep it simple, stupid. So when I traveled to New Zealand, the 70-day travel, I had to embrace the entire 2-island set. I had to go through and basically find a stop off almost every day at a different location, which is very stressful. It's incredibly painful to go through, and I really miss out on some of life's experiences by having to plan day after day of where I'm going to wind up next. In Toastmasters, Tatiana is my mentor. And for the first 3 speeches, she looked at my rough draft and she said, oh, this is great, this is awesome material. I really enjoy all this, but Arunas, you're going way off track here. You're not gonna make it. You're gonna lose yourself. Stick to 2 or 3 items and then run with it. But Tatiana, I would beg, please, let me have one more aspect. And she said kindly, no. Okay, so I went with that, and of course, Tatiana knows what she's talking about, and helped me out. The third and final principle has to do with eye contact, and that's what I've been trying to focus on today. Not to look above you, like I have been the first two talks, or look down. You see, when I was raised in a big city environment, I was taught to look down because it's a sign of aggression, especially amongst people with different skin than mine. In Fiji, I learned very quickly that if I wanted to get anything, I had to make warm eye contact with everybody. And the connection, it was like a life-changing experience. They are some of the friendliest people you'd ever want to meet. In Toastmasters, of course, eye contact is all important. And I've noticed that I get a lot more feedback, a lot more positive responses when I can do that. So I'd like to finish up my talk with just an appreciation for what this man, Mark, my life coach, has done for me. Basically, his life's travels translated into kernels of wisdom that I can apply toward mine. In 1994, the movie Forrest Gump came out. And one of the popular cliches from that movie was, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know, and in this case, life is like table topics. You never know when you're going to be selected. So I like to be able to apply Toastmasters like picking chocolates. It's an adventure into the unknown, but it's well worth it.
Thank you, Toastmasters, Madam Toastmaster, and especially Arunas. I think I am, aside from Tatiana, your first evaluator. Yes, aside from Tatiana. Yes. And she is also your mentor. What a wonderful combination you have, and an excellent, excellent Toastmaster to assist you. You were worried about your eye contact and some body language, basically, yes?
Yes.
I think you just nailed the eye contact in particular. I felt that you were looking at me, and I was thinking, he's looking at me way too much. And then I realized, no, he's not. He's looking here, he's looking there. I realized that's the expert eye contact thing, is when people in the audience really think you're just staring at them, when you are in fact spreading the love around. You really did a wonderful job. So you absolutely nailed that. The other thing you were worried about is moving around. Well, number one, we have a stage that's tricky. So that's something we all need to know, is what are we walking on in the first place in order to use our bodies? Well, we have this big old lump right here. So this is something we all have to traverse. But that's going to happen whenever you're speaking anywhere. Something's going to be in your way. So it's something to check and double check. So I usually wear flats if I'm actually speaking, if you guys have ever noticed. That way I can jump over the things that are going to be a problem. You had a little bit of difficulty there because you were trying, I think, so hard to move with grace when this is something that is a trick. So you can move gracefully over here, step across, move gracefully over here, and you don't have a problem with that. Your utilization of your prop was just spot on. You brought us in, you took us there, we're thinking, what the heck is he gonna do with this? And you go ahead and you take us around the world with your globe. You even talked about the feel of it. So you really brought us in with that. You connected, as Tatiana told you, to smaller ideas. You had Forrest Gump and Toastmasters, again and again. You brought us in the beginning with that, you ended with that, like a box of chocolates. It was a wonderful speech. The only thing I would do next time, I think, to improve, is to stop worrying about what your hands and gestures are doing. This is something that you learn as you move along. Now that was not natural, but for me it is. So thinking to your Lithuanian heritage, heard your mother talk in the past. I mean, there's people that talk with their hands like that all the time. So think about what is your natural gesticulation and do that. And not worry about it. Getting there is tough. And I thought you were wonderful. Applause, applause, applause.